Welcome back to the Better Jurors podcast. We're a queer Survivor superfan podcast here talking Survivor 47, episode 3. Episode title, can't remember right now, but I remember that Jeff said it, which was a surprise. I feel like they don't normally give Jeff the episode title. Anyway, I'm Sam Stanish. With me, as always, is my wonderful pair of co-hosts, Christine Pallin and Derek Reining.
Yeah, it's belly of the beast was what Jeff said.
Yes.
What? That's so generic, too.
Get him.
I feel like there's so many other cool ones.
We are joined by an icon, a star, the legend of season 45 of Survivor, one of our all-time fave contestants. We're so thrilled to have her on today. First time, it's Katurah Topps.
Woo woo! I'm excited. That's a wonderful intro, Sam. I literally wanted to be like,
we need a soundboard.
We really need a soundboard.
Actually, yeah.
No, I'm super excited. I can't believe I'm finally getting a chance to be with you all. I've been wanting to for so long.
It's been a long time coming.
It always amazes me when contestants are excited to do our show. This is the first. It was not you, but this is the first season where somebody has reached out to us to be like, "Can I please do an episode of the show?" That person's coming up soon, but we're really on the rise.
Shameless
Stock is going up.
Yeah, I was like, where's this going?
What can I say?
We're just killing it. We're on the rise.
We're amazing. What
Everybody's reaching out to us, as they should, as you deserve.
We're in demand. I know. Yeah, I mean, we got to gas ourselves up if,
Absolutely. No one else will.
And honestly, I will say, like, while my season was airing, like, Bitter Jurors was, like, a clear name, like, floating around. Like, you were aware of Bitter Jurors while your season was airing. Or at least I know I was. And maybe it's just because you guys are a queer podcast and I'm obviously going to make sure and pay y'all attention. But I feel like, yeah, it was kind of a theme. You were definitely one of those top podcasts that are in your head as a player.
Wow.
I love that.
I think it's because we're funny, but also normal. We aren't insane in the way people on Twitter are.
In Survivor world, normal doesn't get you that far.
I mean, we have a normal interactions with players compared to people on the internet.
Yeah, we're not like unalive yourself, like whoever.
Yeah, that's very valid. There's a lot of non-normal.
Unfortunately, the bar is quite low for that, but we clear it, and we're funny and gay.
Yes,
got a lot going for us. Really gay, to quote Katurah. Katurah, how have you been since season 45 ended? Like, did you enjoy season 46? Were you sort of like backed off from it, or how have you been since your season ended?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question because I've been a little bit all over the place, honestly. Like, our season ended, I think our finale was like December 23rd or like 25th, like right at Christmas time or something like that. And it was just like, oh my God, obviously I'm in the finale. There's so much happening in the finale. And then the new season 46 started in like February. And I was like, I just finished processing even that I was on Survivor. So I don't feel like I got a chance to like really dive into 46 the way I wanted to. Like, I watched it, I'm aware of it. I like kept up with what was happening, got my favorites and stuff. But really 47 is where I'm like, okay, I can join back in almost like as a fan again.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the odd numbered seasons have it a little rougher because you have less off time to like process what's happening.
Yeah. And then the other ones, they have so much. Like, I remember Kenzie and Tiffany were talking to me at the beginning of our season. Mm-hmm. And they're already filmed and everything. So it was literally like they have so much time to like watch everything and see how it all plays out. Whereas the odd number seasons, we kind of just get like thrown and then you're ripped around, especially if you make it to the finals or towards the end and you don't win. Like, you're like, I just saw me crying on TV. Like, I just lost $1 million. January 1st rent. Like, you're literally it's in the top of your mind. You're like, bam, wow. And then they're like, new season of Survivor, 1 month away. You're like, oh my goodness.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like older child syndrome. I feel like you're the guinea pig. You're the one who's like, you got to get out into the real world quickly. Yep. And then, even numbers are just the little babies, you know.
The little babies, and I am the oldest child, so I'm like, I get it all over the place.
No, give Katurah a break. Come on, put her on.
I can't, somebody, like, please. But no, it's honestly been really, really great. Like, I can't complain. I've been off work for a little bit. I've taken a little bit of a life break just to like play and enjoy and live. And honestly, I have. It's been really great. I've just been enjoying the fact that I feel like once you're kind of removed from playing Survivor, like you know, you're not immediately on TV and you're getting everybody's thoughts and opinions. Then you're kind of like, oh fuck, I played Survivor. Like, whoa, you know, then you can just soak in just the coolness of it because there's nothing else to cloud it. And that's kind of where I've been this past year. It's just been great.
It's probably also relaxing. I mean, especially as someone who was so sort of like a central figure in some of the drama of the season, I'm sure you're like a weight has been lifted now that there's no like next episode coming where you're like, what are they going to show next week? What are they going to show next week? Like, what are people going to be mad at me about next?
Sam, that was my whole life, especially. I mean, literally, it's like a positive thing and a negative thing to be like, I'm in every single episode. Right? It's like on one hand, it's like, I'm in every single episode. On the other hand, it's like every single episode, who knows what's going to happen, what they're going to say, how they're going to portray me. And yeah, I feel like I was just in the middle of so much drama the whole time that like, there's not an episode of 45 that you can watch and not be like, I have an opinion about Katurah today. You know, like every episode, it's like, you're gonna love me or you're gonna hate me.
We love you, and also that
we were on the right side of history.
Yes, I mean, yeah.
Exactly. And might I say, called history before history happened multiple times, but yeah.
That's like, I mean, you must have been so relieved then when like 46 was like came in so hot with all the drama. You're like, whoo.
I
old
love
news.
that 46 did that. Honestly, I was like, I think one of the biggest things I liked about 46 drama is it just showed that it's not like a 45 specific thing. It's like a Survivor thing. You can't go there and be at your absolute worst and then all be pitted against each other and then all be starving and then have emotional stuff come up and then be like, we're all best friends. Like, it's just not possible. You literally are giving humans the freedom to create their own society with no rules, no restrictions, and then say, I'm going to put you under tremendous pressure. Do you know what humans do when they have the freedom to create their own societies? We're a hot mess. Like, look around, you know? And so it's like, for me particularly, I'm always going to be a Black girl. I'm always going to be a woman. I'm always going to be a queer person. Like, those things all come up and affect how people interact and deal with me. And so it's like, you add all of that and plus Survivor and Jeff, and it's like, wow. Cool.
Wow, cool.
It's like, well, that was interesting, you know, like there's no way I could walk away from that experience and be like, yeah, it was okay, like nothing crazy happened, it was pretty calm, you know. It was never meant to be. It was never meant to be a calm situation, but that's why we love it. And like, honestly, I just recently saw that Survivor 45 is one of the top fan favorite seasons of the new era.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I feel like I feel incredibly blessed. Like, literally, I mean, despite everything, all the chaos, like, I'm coming out on the other end. I'm positive. I'm shining. I'm happy. I'm a finalist. I have an amazing season, and you know, I can't be happier.
Hell yeah.
You guys are the only new era season on the like must watch, like fan favorite, like CB at Paramount Plus thing. So that's,
that's crazy, right? I was like, okay, I'll take it.
Fan favorite and production favorite, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
So take that other, how many seasons now? 47? 7 of them?
7.
Other 6 seasons?
Right. I mean, well, I guess we'll see what happens as 48, 49 come around. But yeah, I feel like
you might get booted off.
No, I don't think you can ever forget 45. And not obviously biased, but like, I mean,
first 90-minute episode season, you'll never forget.
So much. Exactly. The first 90-minute auction came back.
Yes.
I think somebody did like the first silent confessional or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Some kind of legendary
It
person.
was great. It was wonderful. And I feel like our cast too. Like you could close your eyes and just like point to a random 45er, and like most of the time you're gonna hit a really cool person.
Most of the time. So let's take it to 47 now.
Right.
Thank
you, Sam, pushing us along.
Well, I figured you weren't going to name names, so I figured we could go on. Tell what are your major thoughts on the season now? Like, are you enjoying the new season? Who are your favorites?
Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm actually pretty impressed with every single episode so far. I haven't found one that I'm like, or I got nervous because I think the second episode of 46, they did like a 2-hour episode or something like that. And I visibly remember being exhausted in the middle of it and being like, do we need 2 hours? You know what I mean? So I was a little concerned, like, are they going to randomly give us extra information that we just don't need? But I feel like the production, the quality, the drama, the storylines, the cast, like I like 47. I feel like it's really good. Obviously, my favorites are Asia, Teeny, like these are my people. And, obviously we'll talk about it later, but this was so heartbroken this week with Asia's departure.
I know that was like, I have watch parties here in Chicago, and like the gasps that came out of people's bodies when the first Asia vote came up, I was like,
yeah,
oh my God, couldn't believe they were doing that to all of us collectively. That was terrifying.
I started gasping when they lost because I literally said on my live before the episode started, I was like, if that tribe loses, it's Asia and Genevieve in trouble. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hopefully it's Genevieve. Only because, Genevieve or Asia. I'm like, no, Asia, no. And then, we hadn't seen Genevieve for the whole past episode. So I was like, okay, maybe they're letting us know it's going to be Genevieve. Maybe it's a different way of saying Genevieve was gone early. But I was like, I just hope they don't lose and they don't even have to have that issue come up at all. And then when they lost, I was like, God, no. Oh my God, no. And then when Asia was pushing back, and I was like, oh my God, no.
Oh, girl, no.
Every moment of the last
slow train wreck
of that thing, I was just like, no. No, it was terrible.
I know, it's so sad because it's like, obviously, I mean, there's a lot to discuss there because it's like, as the show presented it, it was like, okay, so Teeny and Kishan were kind of offering like a lifesaver to Asia, and Asia kind of pushed back, and like that's the narrative that the show is presenting, which I'm inclined to believe that. I haven't listened to Asia's exit press, so I don't know her thoughts on that. But it is also, I do also understand the people who are like, Teeny and Kishan could have been a little more like forthcoming about like what they were actually trying to ask Asia to do there. Mm-hmm. So I understand why Asia would not just willingly vote out her number one ally.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just like, I feel like people were not being as like open as they could have been. And I feel like if they had been, Asia might still be there.
Yeah. I think like definitely a big thing here is I don't think Asia knew like she was in the position she was in to like not like I think because she felt like relatively safe with Teeny and Kishan, she's like, okay, this is a conversation. I can give my thoughts on who I'd rather go. But like in reality, the power dynamic was so much different. And and I think if they, obviously you have to be careful. You can't tell the person on the bottom, like you're on the bottom, you're going, because that could blow back on you. But you have to wonder if they had, approached Asia differently, being like, listen, it really is like you or Soul potentially.
Yeah.
And how Asia would have reacted, I imagine probably differently. But yeah, it's like Asia didn't have all the information and assumed she was in a position she wasn't.
Exactly.
And yeah. Exactly.
And that's the scary part, is because, I've talked a lot about this since it happened with people. And I remember, people, the general consensus is like, well, Teeny and Kishan were really trying to save Asia, and they were really trying to let her know. And I'm like, look, if we are ever on Survivor and you are like, Katurah, it's fucking you or a person, and we want to choose that person, like, grabbed me by the shoulders and, look, you are going to go home tonight if you don't vote Saul, and granted, it's Survivor. You cannot always do that. You don't have the time in your space to do that. And like, there is some like reading between the lines that Asia had to do. But I also was thinking the same thing, Christine. Like, I literally turned to my friends that I was watching it with and was like, if you ever happen to see me on an island and you're like, Katurah, it's going to be you or you're voting out your ally. And I might slightly, possibly any percentage of me missing that clear lesson. Just say, you're going home tonight if you don't vote for so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, that's all I need to hear. Like, I'm voting for so-and-so. So I do wonder if Asia had a little bit of like, I didn't really get the weight of what they were trying to tell me. Because I can't imagine not feeling the weight of that and then not immediately being like, all right, well, I'm writing down Saul. But I do think you're right in terms of like, if she doesn't have all the information, so she doesn't know that Rome has an idol and a steal a vote, which the way Teeny says it's kind of like that's Teeny's reasoning for feeling like I'm going to lean over here to the side with Rome because he just has so much more power. But Asia doesn't know that. And I do think if Asia's thinking that Keyshawn, Teeny, her, and Saul are a core four, and the only issue is Rome, who we all want, has a one-time idol, you can easily say, let's split the votes. It's 4 of us. We'll split it on Rome. We'll split it on Genevieve. Whoever they vote for, it doesn't matter. One of them will be safe from the idol. We'll on the revote, we'll vote again for that person. We'll put them all on that one person. There is a world where Asia doesn't vote out her number one, still works with Keyshawn and Teeny, and they still either get out Rome or Genevieve, leaving them with this strong 4. And then whoever's left, Rome or Genevieve, whoever survives it, is a lone person by themselves. There is a world for that. And I do wonder if that's kind of what she was thinking. It's like, that's best case scenario.
I do think that's what like she and Soul were thinking was happening, because they split votes across 2. They were Rome and Genevieve votes like separately. So like, right. I think that I imagine that the people in the minority thought that they were splitting the votes, and so that's why Teeny also just put through 1 vote on Saul, because Teeny knew that it was going to be 1-1-1, so they only all needed 1 vote to split onto someone else. Anyway, I think that Teeny and Keyshawn were choosing between 2 pairs, as we saw in the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that this conversation with Asia is like Asia telling Teeny and Keyshawn, like, we're also an unbreakable pair. Like, Genevieve and Rome are like a duo that we will never turn on each other, and me and Soul are the same. And so Teeny and Keyshawn's choice becomes, which pair should we go with? If they're both just going to be duos that we're not going to be able to split up, we might as well go with the person who is making like social mistakes, who's easier to beat at the end, and who has power.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, there was no benefit that we were shown or that we were told that is the reason why Teeny and Keyshawn would go with Asia. Other than this, like, outside the game, like, I know you're a podcaster kind of relationship, which could have been the reason to go with them, but it wasn't something that like proved out over the other things.
Yeah. And there's like also a lot of talk about like how wild Rome is, and like obviously his personality grating on people, but like on a game level, when they came to Rome and were like, can we do Saul? He was like, yeah. And then he showed flexibility. Whereas so like Rome is like the more chaotic personality, but proved to be more flexible strategically in that at least in this moment. I'm sure if they had been like, hey, Rome, let's vote Genevieve out, he wouldn't have. But like, so this is different. Like, obviously I recognize that Asia was being asked to vote out an ally, whereas Rome is being asked to switch the vote onto Saul, who he doesn't really care about as much. But still, like, from the perspective of Keyshawn and Teeny, like, who was more flexible in this vote? Strangely enough, Rome. And so, again, Asia didn't have all the information. Asia was being asked to make a choice that was worse for her than Rome. But like, in terms of like the dynamics of this vote, it was like a series of things on both Rome's part and then Asia's part that like set it up to be like really hard to justify keeping her. And I think like a hard part here is that like, I think Genevieve is a non-presence. Like, it's so hard to tell how anyone feels about her beyond like Rome clearly like wanting to work with her. I'm wondering, was this more about like like them wanting Genevieve around, like because ultimately it was coming more between Genevieve and Asia, like like what's the Genevieve of it all, because they just completely buried her the past couple episodes. That's just a question for me of like where is Genevieve fitting into these like plans, because ultimately it was more her name on the line because Rome idled.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I will say this, if any of us three are out on the island and you do recognize us, you actually are obligated to like still keep us in the game, no matter how bumbling we are. Sorry.
Tough week tough season for podcasters.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. You nervous?
Well, now I am. I wasn't before, but I'm like, damn, okay.
I already knew I'd be bad at Survivor in this season.
Just confirmation, really. I mean, it is weird because they kind of went out for, I guess, like similar-ish, like where it's like John just needs to like sit back and be like, "Yep, goodbye, Andy," and just accept that. Asia's, I think, was just a little more complicated, like we've been saying, of like there are a lot of different dynamics at play, and I don't know, like I haven't listened to her exit press, so I really don't know if there were other conversations that happened or if there is more to the Genevieve of it all, like you were saying, Christine. Would love to know. Also would have loved to have more Saul before this episode because he is really hilarious.
I like Saul a lot. And I mean, with Asia thing, it's like, right, like first we have to get over the heartbreak of just like somebody who was a really great player and really tapped into the Survivor universe and like could have gone far theoretically. But I agree. It's like, it's complicated because it's like for all the justifying and like, you know, I like how you said earlier, Christine, like this could also be just like a conversation with your ally, right? Like we did see the parts where she's like, no, it must be Genevieve. But if I'm thinking you guys are part of my strong core four and you say I want it to be so-and-so, I do feel safe enough to say, well, I'm with my people. Mm-hmm. I can say, no, I'm really leaning towards this. Tell me what you think. And, you know, it could have been more of the dialogue part that we saw that was kind of presented as like, nah, this is my hard line. And so there's one thing to account for that. But I also feel like my rule of thumb, no matter who saying what in Survivor, yep, sounds great. Sure. Wonderful. Let's do it.
Yeah, that too.
Go home. Saul. Great. Wonderful. Right? Like you kind of have to default to that no matter what anyway. And then you can go away and be like, all right, let me like make this happen or whatever. So I do think that's just like a cautionary tale for everybody. It's like just be, you know, I can't imagine any moments where even when I was been like, okay, I know for a fact I'm not doing this. I'm still like, that sounds really great. Thank you so much for telling me that. Like, I appreciate that. And you kind of have to, because you never know when someone is genuinely looking out for you versus something else is happening and it could be a trap to set you up for something else. So like the safest thing to do, no matter what the situation is just to like agree, even in at least in a light way.
We've had a couple other moments like that this season on the Blue Tribe where Caroline was approached to be in alliance with Gabe and she was like, I'm not sure. And then this episode when Kyle was trying to pull in like Sue and like, like they don't value her, and she was just like, no, I won't, like, I'm not having this conversation. And, like,
right now I'd like some peace.
I'd like to focus on vibes. I'd like to protect my peace.
That was so funny. She's like, I thought we all agreed we're not talking to anyone.
Okay. But I do like that too though, because it's like right before a challenge, like when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is check tree mail. Like it doesn't matter what time it is. Like you wake up, the sun wakes you up, and you go straight to tree mail. And once you get tree mail and it says whatever encrypted code it says, and you're like, okay, we're going to a challenge. You are very much like, okay, brain on, mindset, because you like the boat can pull up any minute, and we got to go do this. So I do get Sue a little bit in that. It was just kind of hilarious because you could just tell it pissed Kyle off.
That's amazing. Just gather the girls up and try to, you know, make something happen. I understand the instinct. I get it. That's what I would be doing every day.
I was going to say, speaking of Carolyn and Sue, I really like this duo. I feel like they're the kind of duo that, like, this is what we want, or at least this is what I wanted. Like that duo that you're like, we're together. Like, I'm not going to, like, there isn't any indication that Sue is going to lie to Carolyn or flip on her or vice versa. Right. And I really like that. And I like that they're the two people that presumably others would think aren't going to be as strong or strategic or whatever. And like, great. discard me, forget about me. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's really Sue that spearheaded that TK vote out. And I was like, oh my God, like that's historic. How often do we see the big guy who knows he's the challenge beast and knows I can really say anything I want and bro out and like disregard other people? Maybe I'm having flashbacks. And nobody wants to vote him out. You know what I mean? It's like, right. Like, it's cool that those, I really like that Sue, Carolyn, and Tiana were like, nah, that's not going to work over here. And then the big guy was gone. And I don't know 100% sure, but I saw that people were saying that's like only the third time in Survivor history that like this big guy challenge helper is gone out early.
Mm-hmm. And it's, well, another big thing that happened was this is the first time in the new era where the first 3 boots are from 3 different tribes, right? Or at least like voted out, not like
any 3-tribe season.
Oh, period.
Wow.
Any season with like 3 or 4 tribes, yeah.
Wow.
Which is not as most of them have been in the new era, but yeah. Like,
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
but yeah.
Which is nice. I love that. It's a change of pace. Like the disaster tribe can be cute, but it's like we've seen that a million times at this point. Like,
yeah. And the disaster tribe sucks for everybody. Like, because then you go to the merge and you really just have, I mean, speaking as somebody on my season, we had Lulu, which was the disaster tribe. And it's like, on one hand, you're grateful because like, great, they're losing and I'm winning and I'm staying in. But then when you get to the merge, you have less options. You know, like if an entire tribe is gone to nothing, those last remaining 1, 2, 3 players, like it's like who now we have to fight to see who you're going to connect with, right? Like who you're going to pull in, and it just isn't enough variety. Like, you know, I hate the disaster tribe concept.
I think it also helps like make just the show. It's probably easier to make a better season out of a show where everybody's going to tribal early, where like the characters are all introduced before the merge, and like people other than Genevieve, unfortunately, but the people are introduced and the people are mad at each other, and it's like there is drama to go off of. Whereas like with like some people on season with disaster tribes, it's like they don't go to tribal until the merge, and so like they don't even know what to expect, and like they're learning stuff like halfway through the season. Whereas like now it's like everybody has voted and they don't like each other and they're ready to vote more people out.
And things are just more even. Like each tribe has a fighting chance, so it feels like our winner could be from, you know, any tribe. Although I have my suspicions.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, it is. Yeah, like it's a nice little combo. I hope that keeps going.
About like just these past few seasons, this is what we've been craving, and we're finally getting it. Of like, oh, we get to know like all these dynamics, and it makes you more excited for what's going to happen next week. Okay, so now one of these tribes is going to go back again, and we fully have an idea of like what could happen on each of these tribes now. Where exactly. Just where like you guys on your your blue tribe on your season, like we were always wondering, but like we didn't ever, because you never didn't go, like it didn't, you know, we were like, it was just, you guys were so strong. There was also like that, like it didn't feel like likely to happen. And then, you know, we get to know you, but you really get to know people in Survivor like through conflict. And this is how, obviously we're getting a lot of non-tribal conflict this season, which we need to talk about. Rome and the fish and Annika.
My God.
Like prior to this episode, we totally were I feel like the narrative on like Red Tribe was that like Rome really wasn't as insulated as he was. And that like, and that Asia and was more in the group, and we found that, I think that was just like, I don't know if it was misleading, I don't know if things changed, but like once they got to tribal, we learned that like wasn't the case at all. So it's hard, like it's fun to think about other seasons of like, okay, if we had even tribes going, like what things did we believe to be true about these winning tribes that wouldn't have been true if they had gone?
And that's always like funny, I guess, to me to like hear from like players being like, oh, if we had gone to tribal at this point, like this is who would have gone. It's like, it's good to know definitively, like, no, these were the dynamics early on, and like we can confirm that. So that's all we have the real tea.
As somebody who didn't go to tribal until the merge, my first tribal was the merge tribal.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. So like on one hand, it sucks because then in the beginning, you're exactly as you're saying, Christine, like no one is getting the full dynamics of what's happening because why do you need to put attention on the tribe that won? You know what I mean? Nobody is like looking at it, except in my case, there's one little attention piece, but like not showing the full tribe dynamics. And then even for us, it's so crazy because we'll talk about it and we'll be like, we wish that we would have gone to tribal one of those earlier times, just because as you say, Derek, like we'll all have our different interpretations of what the dynamics are and what would happen if we were to go to tribal, but you really never know. And so then you go to the merge not as strong as you would be if we had gone to tribal. You told me you were going to stand up for me and then you did. Right. Otherwise, now we're going to merge and I only have that you told me you would, but like, I don't know if you really would, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think it'll put all three tribes in a good position that they're all going to head into the merge having experienced the tribal.
Plus, even speaking of those hypotheticals, like you have no idea what would happen once you got back to the beach after a challenge if you had lost. Like, I'm sure that if the red tribe had won out to the merge, we would have gone into the end game of the season and like postseason confessionals where the red tribe was being like, yeah, like if we had gone to tribal, we probably would have voted out Seoul if we had gone to tribal, blah, blah, blah. Because they had no idea like how these conversations would have played out between Teenie, Kishan, and Asia, where Asia is like not budging. And so they don't even know that was what was going to happen. And so like literally you kind of just truly never know because nobody knows how they're going to respond to anything and nobody knows what's going to happen, how anybody's going to react.
Yeah, that's the gag.
But saying all that, Katurah, who is going home from Bello?
Definitively.
And that's the craziest thing is in this moment, to this day, right now, you can talk to all 6 Bello members and we'll all have different names. Literally last night, Kelly and I were together and we were talking about that. That's so crazy. And then she was like, well, I was thinking this. I'm like, well, I was thinking this. And like, we're literally all like, that's the thing. It's a year later and we still don't know. You know what I mean? You just literally never know. And that's why I'm like, I kind of feel like it's a blessing and a curse. Like in the moment on my tribe, I was like, I'm at the bottom. Like we're going to fight every immunity because it's like I would be going 10 times harder in the challenges than normal because I'm like, I would literally say to myself, and maybe this is negative self-talk, but I'm like, you win or I'm like, you lose, you go home. Like you better win this challenge. And I would repeat that to myself and be like, put the block, wherever, like do the run. So just so you feel the extra push. And so it's kind of crazy because in the moment, if you're at the bottom, you're like, I don't give a fuck about clarity. Like, I don't need to figure out who for sure is going to go home because it might be me, right? But then later looking back, you're like, if it wasn't me and if I'm in any other position besides the bottom, it's advantageous to go to tribal.
Yeah. That makes sense. But this, like, I wish this would be a great situation to have like a swap like a true swap of like mix everything up because now that like people do have clearer ideas of where they stand in the tribes, then that's like going to make people more willing to break off and do their own thing if they feel like that dynamic was not on their side at the last tribal they went to. So it's like, would love that, but I just feel like, I don't know. I don't know.
One more, right? Before swap? Like, you guys think we're having a swap immediately?
I mean, I don't know if we're having a swap at all because you guys were like the only ones who got one.
Yeah.
Like a proper new era swap.
That's true. You're right. I forgot about that.
Which is so weird. I don't get it. I love swaps. They're so fun.
Yeah. I feel like they're just natural. Yeah, that would suck if they didn't have a swap because I'm kind of interested to see these characters, connect with
This
others.
would be a perfect season for it. Yeah,
this would be the best. Yeah, this would be the best time for it too for this season. You're right. Damn.
Yeah. Don't we want to see Sue and Saul like talk to each other? Like I think that's what we all want.
If Saul is willing to talk to Sue, some people don't talk to her.
Why do we want to see Sue and Saul talk together? I mean, I don't have any reason
characters.
against it.
Yeah.
But both.
They seem
both of their
wild.
Like preseason interviews had a couple like really funny tidbits where Saul talked about like his biggest inspiration being that we all die one day. And then Sue talks about being really into like channeling, like people who channel like higher beings. I feel like they would just
that would be
queen now.
Okay.
Yeah.
We see a vision
with anybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I want to see Rome with literally every other person.
I know. Someone needs to match his freak. I don't know who on this season could even get to that level.
I would love to see like Rome and Annika like have a conversation.
Yes.
I feel like
That
sparks
would
would
be good.
fly in the worst way.
I have my eye on Annika, by the way. I feel like she's such a strong, powerful player that because she's a woman, I feel like it's either gonna go over really well or it's not. Like I feel like either Annika's gonna go all the way to the end or Annika's gonna get cut soon. Like either one.
I
And
know.
she just lost her vote too, didn't she?
Yeah, let's talk about
from
that.
The grab bag.
God, the damn grab bag.
Like why?
Katurah, did you get to go on any journeys? I can't remember.
I did. I went on a journey with Emily and Austin.
The one, the one late, like post merge, right?
Yeah, it was pretty
Yeah.
late. Yeah, Bruce would not allow me to go on any pre-merge. I remember we literally, it was crazy because ours was math, which I don't know how I feel about this. You must dig your hand in the bag. You must just pull something out. I mean, not for nothing, I didn't win on my journey, but I like players having the choice. And I like it being something mental or physical. Like I like it being you could earn it with your actions kind of thing. Just reach it in the bag and it's like whatever fate decides. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't love that.
I don't love that it's like you're screwed over the instant you stepped on the boat, basically. Like you were just going to lose your vote, I guess, just by virtue of being on the journey, which I think is silly.
Potentially.
Yeah.
But like I feel like I understand where you're coming from, but these people have decided to go on the journey at all, which I feel like is a risk, and they're like making the choice to go. And so I'm kind of like, what do you want Survivor to do? Let all three of them get up to this bag and none of them risk their vote?
Yeah, let's all have fun.
Yeah, then we don't have to watch it.
Yeah,
Then we
sure,
can get
but
back to the stuff that's interesting.
But yeah, no, I'm okay. Obviously, I agree that the show would be better if this island didn't exist. But like,
damn, I didn't go that far.
I'm willing to. There's no contract between me and the company. Anyway, I think since they're committed to this risk your vote thing, it's like sure, they're giving them a chance to not lose their vote. Whatever. Look at people. People would lose their votes. It's like whatever. I don't care.
I will say, yes, Sam. I feel like at this point in the new era, like enough time has passed, enough seasons have passed, where players have seen players go and lose their vote, and like that you can't really predict what will happen. Yeah. I think if this sort of thing happened in the very first like new era's like the first journey, I think that would have been incredibly unfair. It still annoys me, because I just think any situation where you're removing choice is making the game less interesting, but at this point, we know enough about the journey, and you've seen enough players go on the journey that the choice is a risk in itself. And like going, and like what the perception of people, what people think of you for going on the journey is also a risk. So it's like one of those things like I don't like, but I can like, all right, fine, it's not that egregious, as long as they don't make them do math. Katurah, that was so rude. That was so cruel.
First of all, I was like, lawyers don't do math. But then also, right before it, Emily is like an investment analyst or something like that. She's doing math all the time. Right, financial analyst. She's doing math all the time for her job. Like all the time, Emily's doing math. And I remember they made us go individually. And Emily goes, and then she's like, walking calmly, and she comes back like 20, 30 minutes later, and she's sobbing. She's like, oh my God. Oh, and we're not allowed to talk. So we don't know what happened or what to think about. And she is like heaving. And I'm like, what's behind the damn? Like, what am I about to? And then they're like, Katurah, go ahead. And I'm like, what? Like,
what's about to happen
there, right? Like, I'm
it's like a saw trap.
Yeah.
I see that it's just mental math. So it actually wasn't too complex. And like we were all able to do it. Really, the thing that messes you up is just the time limit. It's just the insult thing dripping, and you're like, oh my God, I got time, and there's cameras all around, and you're like, I got 1 minute to solve this problem, right? It wasn't actually too bad of a problem. I was almost there, but as I've been learning from my Survivor experience, almost definitely does not count. But I don't have a problem with the math. I think it's just like, for this case, I wanted them to have to do something a little bit. Like I wanted them to like, you couldn't make the puzzle in time, or you couldn't grab this thing or whatever. That would have been a little more interesting. But I do agree, like, as I was feeling sad for the two people who lost their vote, and like as irony would hit, Rome is the one who was able to get her an advantage.
Of course.
As I was feeling bad for them, I was like, it's true, Christine. Like, the moment you agree to go on the journey, you are already saying, I accept the fact that I got a bigger target on my back, that I might tell what happened and people are not going to believe me, that I'm potentially losing my vote, or going to be, you know, walking out of here in a worse situation. So it's kind of like, if you're willing to risk that. And I think I can imagine Jeff being like, that's the point, you know, like, you need to think about the danger before you even step on the boat.
Like, okay, Jeff, calm down.
I do like your point though, Katurah, where maybe if it had been more of like, if there was a puzzle or like some sort of like bigger construct back there, then it probably wouldn't have flagged for so many people, where they're like, all they're doing is reaching their hand in the bag and they might lose their vote. But if it was like, you have to try to complete this puzzle, and if you don't, you lose your vote, I feel like that's probably something more like acceptable
it feels
to people.
A little more like, all right, I could have had a way to get past this, and I was stopped for my own inability. You know, like, that's a little less sucky, I guess.
And it's also better to watch on TV. I don't know. What's fun about looking at someone put their hand in a bag and be like, well, I'm fucked. Okay, bye. Like, that's not exciting. I thought we learned that from the loved ones visit from Heroes, Healers, Hustlers.
Yeah.
Well, at least this took less time than a puzzle would have.
Like, but it was funny to like have Rome just be like, ding, yes, of course.
Right.
Highly flavored.
Like, naturally, of course. I've noticed too, they've been showing little clips of like Asia rolling her eyes when Rome does something. And I just immediately imagine her rolling her eyes as soon as he reaches in the bag. And it's like, of course you got the freaking thing. Which is, you know, honestly, I will say, here's one thing I really like about Rome. I do feel that as annoying as he is obviously being portrayed as, and like, you know, hard to work with, we even saw, like, as you said earlier, he's flexible with, you know, the decisions, and he's giving them information. So Rome is doing a fantastic job of creating that like connection with Teenie and Keyshawn in a way where they do feel like he's going to tell us whatever. Like the fact that when he first uncovered his idol, he told Teenie about it, you know, the box or whatever. And then he sees Teenie telling Keyshawn, and he's still not upset. And he's like, just making sure they're looped in. I do think it's a testament to his gameplay, because when he first said, I got to steal a vote, and Teenie knows he's now got steal a vote and an idol, I would have thought, like, in other situations, that could have gone bad for him, where people were like, Rome has too many things. Like, you have 2 advantages in 6 days, and a number 1 that's super strong and connected to you, and you're able to be strong in these challenges and win. Like, that would put a target to me on Rome, but it made them want to go with him instead of be like, let's attack him even more. So I do feel like that's a piece that people aren't really acknowledging in terms of Rome's gameplay.
Absolutely. And I feel like I think I talked about this last week maybe, or we talked about it, of like choosing to take the idol that is like a one-time use, I think was the smartest possible thing he could have done, because it is like, I am not going home next week, like straight up, if we go to Tribal. And so then it's like that forced Teenie and Keyshawn to look elsewhere, like regardless of whether I don't know, because then it's like that just introduces the question in their mind of whether he would play it on himself or Genevieve, which instantly is saving him and his ally. Like that was just the smartest possible thing he could have done. So yeah, Rome is a great game player. I think
he's still in it. I'm
sure I would be annoyed out there too, but it's like he's hilarious to watch on TV, and he like isn't terrible at the game. So I don't know. I'm glad he's having fun on Twitter.
And the annoying people, I always say, like, unless the annoying person is like, I don't like you and I'm going directly for you, everybody else should be like, hey, annoying, difficult to work with, socially jarring person, do you want to ride with me? You know what I mean? Like, why not? Like, that's an amazing person to take with you to the end, especially if there's someone you can trust, if there's someone who's giving you key information, which Rome is doing for all of that. It really is clear where, if you're Teenie or Keyshawn, why they would say, let's pull in Rome and Genevieve.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And I feel like some people maybe are thinking at this point, it's early to start thinking about who you're sitting with at the end, or like choosing to bring Rome over Asia now is like planning too far ahead. But I do still feel like there's, even if you're not thinking about final tribal seats, it's like, would you rather bring somebody who's like socially integrated and just like calm around camp, and or the person who you could always be like, well, this person, why don't we get rid of him? Everybody's thinking about him already. Like, it's fine. And so there's being the annoying one at camp has a lot of benefits for many reasons for keeping you around early if you can like actually make it work, especially if you have an idol in your pocket. But we did mention the fish thing earlier in the episode, and I did listen to Asia's exit interview. She was very funny on Rob Has a Podcast. She was like, she said something like Rob asked her if they were portraying what it's like to live with Rome accurately, or like if it was better or worse than how it is, and she was like, they're portraying it accurately, but it's much worse in person. And then so like they win this fishing gear, and Rome goes and gets like 4 fish or something and eats 2 of them himself.
It's just like, and like does it like right next to her, right? I forget, how did that even start? Like, were they just are already hating each other at that point?
Well, like Rome was like, he was off fishing by himself, and the group was just like talking, and then he was very much like, I sure wish someone would make a fire for me. And no one like did. And then I think Asia like said something about the fish, and that like, I think it wasn't just her not helping, but I think it was because she said something about like, you know, eating the fish. I don't remember, but then he targeted her with the like eating it right next to her, and apparently and like spitting onto her back. That's crazy.
Insane. I kind of loved it. It was like very like sibling code. Like that's something you would do with like your siblings in a normal situation, not just if you're on an island together. For love.
I did. I was torn because I was like, okay, like catching fish in Survivor is hard. Like any size fish, even though Rome's are really tiny. Like catching fish at all is hard in Survivor. You just, the gear is brand new. You don't know the area. You know what I mean? The fish are fast. So I was like, okay, if I had done that and gone out and caught fish, and then nobody had the fire going, and nobody scaled it with me, and nobody cleaned it with me, and then they all came up and were like, we're ready, I'd be a little like annoyed. So I get it. But then, I don't know, I'm just such an Asia trooper. I'm like, are you kidding me with this spitting right beside me? Like, I actively avoided picking up the machete during my season because I knew, I mean, partially because I was like, don't trip, you know, don't trip with the machete in your hand. That's just going to be a very dangerous situation. But it's also like, sometimes things are so infuriating when you're hungry and you're alone on that island. And I can't imagine somebody like eating this fish by themselves and like spitting pieces out to you. Like that just feels like incredibly annoying, unnecessarily so.
Yes.
And it's stuff like this that made, like, I think it's so hard for Asia to like fully have the picture of what was going on, dynamics of this tribe. Because like you see Rome do something like that, and you're like, why would anyone want to work with him? Like, I know he's probably going to be safe here because he is an idol, but like, why would like he have like strategic sway? I'm curious to see if like Rome lasts longer, because we saw last season like Q was a smokescreen later on, because there was like a similar view of him. Obviously he was also saying I want to quit at tribal council, but like as terms of someone who it's like, well, of course they're gonna like vote out this person because he's, you know, all these, whatever these reasons are, and then that was a smokescreen for people to get out their idols. You know, this wasn't as intentional as that was, but that was, I think, also made it harder. I think if Rome had been like less Rome, if Rome's his personality had been a little more toned down, I think Asia would have been a little more on her toes of like, they could work with him. Yeah. Whereas you have someone who's like annoying everyone. We're all complaining about it. And it's true. But the two things could be true. Teeny and Keyshawn can think Rome is ridiculous and be annoyed by him, but also see like the game value in working with him. Exactly. And that's what makes him really dangerous. Like he makes him a great ally, a great smokescreen. If you're on the other side of that, it makes it really hard to tell like which way the wind is going to blow, because people can say one thing socially and strategically that it doesn't line up.
Completely different. Yeah. I think that's a fantastic point. And I feel like that's what we've been seeing like multiple seasons. Just as you said, Q went far, Bruce went far. I get the vibe that Rome's going to go far because I think all of the Survivor players are thinking, well, let's take you as long as possible, because worst case scenario, you're somebody that's jarring to other people. So you're not going to connect with others. Like, so that means I have you. Or people are so bothered by you that they get rid of you before me. Like, so I definitely can't see any world where Rome is like leaving too early, because clearly the things that he's doing that's annoying aren't so annoying to Teenie and Keyshawn, where they're like, we can't work with you. And I honestly think he sealed his fate by going back to them and telling them everything. So it's like, well, if you're loyal on top of all that, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think. I feel like that's the same thing we've had in 45 with Bruce, like because Kelly felt that he was so loyal to her. And he really is like that kind of player that's like, once I'm locked in with you, I'm not leaving, you know? So it's like, well, that's exactly what you want. Like, annoyances be damned. If you can find somebody who's gonna rock with you, that's the ultimate win in Survivor, no matter what package they come in. Like, if you're gonna be like, I got you until the end, let's do it together.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Oh my gosh, I would love that.
I feel bad for Asia though. All that spitting and
I know that's
yeah, and then to get voted out.
Then Rome plays it off. What? Oh, did I get some on your back?
Yeah. I did also see Rome was wearing a Q skirt, apparently, according to people.
Was he?
Wow.
I can see that. That tracks, actually.
He's embodying. Yes, I get that.
I feel like this is the first season or whatever. I feel like this is a season for the first time in a very long time. Nothing really coming to mind where it's like so heavily canonically influenced by the previous season. Like they are like, as fans, we are very aware of when production is happening and what the most recent episode of Survivor they saw is before they started playing this season of Survivor, whatever. Like this season, they're talking about 46 all the time. Like they're talking about all the idols that happen. They're like they mentioned something else about season 46, but it's just like they literally showed every single person get like voted out with the idol in their pocket in this episode. Whereas like usually I feel like seasons of Survivor are so like singular, but like this one they're like, this is all about season 46 and our response to how it all happened in season 46.
Yeah, this was something we were wondering about, like as 46 was airing. It was like, well, how will we see this play out? And it is playing out like really explicitly. And I think it was when we had Kendra on, we actually asked her this question, Katurah, of like, do you feel like, you know, the seasons right before yours like influenced your season? I think it was Kendra who said like the 43, 44 had like a lot of women going out in the pre-merge, and that was definitely something that like was on top of mind, even though it didn't make the edit or anything. But now we're like literally seeing players sit in front of the camera being like, I saw what happened last season.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see, because 48 will have not seen 47, but they might be like, will they be having the same mindsets about the idols? Because that's also the last season they saw.
But it's also like 46, I feel like was very rare in the fact that so many, I mean, countless people went home with their idol in their right, where it was kind of like such a jarring thing from the season anyway. Like Kendra's right, like the women thing was a huge thing on our season. Like everybody was talking about that. Women always go home, women always get out early. Let's like the girls stick together. That's how my second alliance started on my Bello tribe was with all the girls, because we were all like, we are tired of seeing all the women go out early. Let's band together. So I think it makes sense. I think just 46 was just so crazy much that I can't remember any Survivor season recently where so many people went out with an idol in their pocket back to back. And by the way, remember the smokescreen for all of that was Q.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because they also in this episode, Teenie also mentioned like, does anybody want to be Q? Or maybe Kishan said, is anybody gonna quit?
Right.
It's like they're talking about it all the time.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I wonder if it's also Survivor producers are just letting that get in a little bit more, because we talked about the previous seasons all the time. I mean, you can't help it. Like it's the very last thing you have to go off of before you go in the game. But I don't feel like that was really reflected in our season airing.
Right.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think Survivor is sort of recognizing its place in culture at this point of like, we've got like this audience that is loyal to us and they're going to be watching the show like as it's airing. And so like, we can be less insular with each season. Like I feel like back in the day it was more like, oh, we want to be a show that you can just kind of hop into at any point and just like catch on cable. But it's now like people are like binging our show on like streaming services, so like it benefits us to reward that by being like, see, even the players are Survivor fans just like you.
I think so. And it's kind of crazy how the Survivor culture is growing. You're getting your Big Brother-ish energy, like where people are just like diehard and intense and watching everything. And like even as players, I feel like we can see. I remember when my season came out, I had a bunch of players from before reach out to me and be like, you know, you're going to get some social media attention, but like, it's not ton, it's not the end of the world. And I feel like by our season, it was like all social media. And then 46 was even more, and 47. And I'm like, I think Survivor is reaching a critical point just online where people are being more engaged. Like no longer is this casual Survivor fan just like, I watch a season and then I'm out. Like you're watching it and then you're following the players and then you're tweeting about it live and then you're watching the podcast, you know, like all of that. And it's like, holy crap, this is cool.
Yeah.
Paramount Plus.
and your season I think was like kind of like ground zero for that, because like CBS with the writer's strike and everything, CBS was like giving you guys 90-minute episodes, and like you guys had a promotional push like no other new era season had, and that clearly brought like the Statue of Liberty, like the Empire State Building changed its colors, like that was crazy. Like, and I think we're feeling those waves of like that group of people who, like, of course we had the people who started watching when COVID hit, when all these seasons came on Netflix, and then there was this huge push that seems to have worked, and CBS seems to have like put like kind of like many of their eggs in the Survivor basket. And it's not Australian Outback levels, but it's the most, I think we've been talking about people like the biggest Survivor these past few seasons have been the biggest Survivor moment in a very long time.
Because I got back into the show like 10 years ago, and the only events were like you could go to the live know-it-alls, and that was it. Like for this for in-person stuff, like that was it.
Oh, really?
And so, but like now CBS is like throwing their own things, and like in numerous cities every season they're doing like early release episodes with NDAs, and like they're rewarding fandom or whatever. And like Katurah, you were at one yesterday, and like I'm in Brooklyn, and I haven't gone to one of those official CBS events yet, but it just seems like more and more of those kinds of things are happening.
Yeah, and it's brand new, by the way. All of it, the beach drops, like they never talked to us about any of that stuff before. Like the come to an exclusive screening of a CBS show. Like, I mean, I'm excited when I get the invite, and I'm like, yeah, of course I'll go. But I do feel the newness of CBS being like, we're trying to start putting more attention on the people who really show up for our players, show up for the show. And I like it because it's kind of like we really do put ourselves out there. Like I still can't think of anything scarier than being like, do you want to get dropped on an island for 26 days with no food and a bunch of people who may be against you? And like, you got to do the most rigorous challenges. Like if you're scared of heights, you're going to be like 50 feet in the air. And like, you know what I mean? It's like Survivor really is saying, how bold are you? Are you willing to say, I'll walk into the great unknown, knowing that all the people behind the scenes are doing stuff intentionally to test the human spirit, and it's going to be televised and millions of people will watch
and tweet about it
and dissect you and look at you and look at every single thing about you. Do you want to do that? And like, you only have like 1 in 18 shot of actually winning the money too. It's like, you're going to get some of the coolest, most bravest people who are like at really cool critical points in their life. And like that should be rewarded. There should be beach drops and like moments for us to meet people and connect. So I like it. I like the direction they're going.
And I like that they're allowing the people who are on the current season to be a part of them too. Because like I feel like even last season, it was like there was total lockdown. Like you basically, once you're on Survivor, you have to go in a cave until your finale airs. But now like I saw that like Sue and Andy and a third person, Teeny, were at the Brooklyn event. So I'm glad that they're like letting them be a part of the promotion of their season.
Yeah.
We had Gabe, we had Saul, all of them were there
Nice.
yesterday. Yeah, it was
Because
really fun to see.
I think Survivor recognizes that, like, because it used to be like the fantasy was like, oh, these people are on the island right now as we speak, and they're totally isolated. And now it's like, no, we know, like you said, Sam, like we know when the flights go out. Like that's how like like Survivor
It's
fans
crazy.
are. So it's like, like why even pretend like that's not the case? Like just embrace it. And like I think, like you said, Katurah, it helps the players too. I feel like that's probably, I would hope, would make people a little nicer if they knew like there is a chance that they could actually run into these people who they're talking awful shit about online. Like I would hope that would deter that a little.
Oh, the people who talk shit online, no, they wouldn't dare.
Well, they'll still do it, and then they'll be like, "Oh my god, I love you on the show."
Right? Exactly.
But it makes me really curious, like what, like is there gonna be like a critical mass point, or is it like, is Survivor gonna like get really into, like, are we gonna get like official like Survivor run like live Survivor games? Like could that be like, are they gonna embrace the fandom of it like so intensely? I don't know. Like I think that would be smart to do, like officially sanctioned, like do your own like Survivor game, like
Hosted by alum.
yeah, like that would be smart. Like I don't know. I think this is, like you said, like a really exciting time just to be like a Survivor fan, but also a really exciting time, I think, for the people who make Survivor. And I think they are doing a good job of taking advantage of that. So that's cool. It makes me very curious to see how 50 plays out. Like I don't know. I feel like that'll be a good stress test of like, okay, so we're gonna try and see if all this like boiling tension,
The community building moved on.
yes, how is that going to play out when all these people are going to be forced to vote each other out of a game again? Like what's that going to be like? So that'll be interesting.
Exciting.
Yeah, I feel like on the social media piece, 50, everything's leading up to 50, right? The chaos, because I'm just a fan too. Like before I ever played Survivor, I was just a girl who was like, it's Wednesday, get the snacks ready, roll up, like it's time to watch Survivor, right? Like it's just a regular fan. And I'm like, as a fan, everybody's thinking about 50. It's almost the excitement that we had pre-Winners at War, right? Before we saw Winners at War, but it was right. We all were like, Winners at War, let's do, like 40 is gonna be big, like all these players coming back, especially all winners. Like I think there's so much excitement about what 50 is gonna look like, that from a social media stance and from a fan stance, like this is, I think it's just going to go up and up and up and up, peak and explode at 50, and then we'll see what happens after that if they can maintain it.
Can I ask you, Katurah, like what made you put
down
down
now, Sam?
No,
you don't have to answer anything. You can plead the fifth.
And then you're like, so can I ask you? And I was like, oh, I shouldn't even say anything about 50.
I knew, I've been jokingly asking contestants about like their pregame alliances, whatever, but I know they're not actually going to say anything, and I understand that. So I'm pivoting. I'm going to ask, like, what made you decide to put down the snacks and apply for the show?
Oh, put down the snacks? Damn, was I snacking that much?
You said Wednesday, and
you're like Wednesday and the snacks.
Oh, okay.
Like how we got off the couch, you put down the snacks.
You saw that? No, okay, that's a good question. For me, well, okay, first of all, the snacks were part of my like self-care, right? Like Wednesdays became self-care days for me. So I just coincidentally had therapy on Wednesdays, and my therapy would be from 6 to 7. And so I would like have therapy, bare my soul. And then at 7, I would be done, roll a blunt, and have my snacks and get all of that ready so that by the time Survivor comes on, I'm in a good smooth state, I have snacks beside me. So it was kind of like a ritual. Literally, it was like my self-care ritual. And like by the end, Survivor ends, I've had a great night. I've had some food, I've had some snacks, I've relaxed, I've done some therapy. I'm like, this is a great self-care day you did. And for a while, that was just the custom. And I was fine with Survivor just being my self-care thing in that context. And it wasn't until I was just so stressed. I was stressed out at work. I'm a civil rights lawyer, you guys know. And my work is just really draining and soul breaking a lot. I work specifically in Black issues and Black advocacy and in relation to like police violence and things like that. So I was just having another day at work where it was just like the world's weight is bearing on me. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm like working 20 hours a week. And I had a birthday. Yeah, it was September. I just had my birthday. And I was like, what can we do to change this life? Like, whatever the current situation is, we are not vibing with it, like how it's going. And then Survivor just happened to be on because Survivor's on in my house all the time. Like, at any given moment, Survivor is my comfort show. Like, it literally is my self-care show. And so it would just be on. And I looked at it and I'm like, you know what? I survive every day. Like, every day in this body and this identity with this background, I am an expert at surviving the most chaotic things. What if I just applied for Survivor and try that out? And I was like, I bet I could do it. Like, as we all do, like, I know I could do it. Yeah. And then I literally did it on a whim. It was like, I'm having a new birthday. I'm turning a new year. I'm turning a new leaf. And I had a date that night. So the girl who was coming to pick me up, she literally had been seeing me look rough all week, FaceTime, because, I'm very typically gay and I FaceTime with these girls all day long. And so she had been seeing me look rough all week. So I'm like, okay, we're going on a date. I have an excuse to look kind of cute. Like, I put a little makeup on and I'm like, this is your moment. Just freaking record your casting video off the fly. Propped my phone up literally at this window right here behind me, propped my phone up and just talked for like 3 minutes. And when the girl came to pick me up, I was like, look at this video. Do you like this? It's like 1 or 2. Pick which one. She was like, this one looks great. I was like, cool. Let me just send this in real quick before we go to dinner. It was very much like, Katurah, what actions are you doing to create the life you want? You're saying you're unhappy. You're saying you're stressed. You're saying you're tired. But what actions are you doing to change that? And I get really introspective-y like that around my birthday because I am a Virgo, and you know what I mean? It's that time where you're like, reflect. And I was like, if I can't give myself 10 minutes to do something that I love, which is just record this video and shoot it out to Survivor, it's not going to take more than 3 minutes. Like, there's a 3-minute cap, So I was like, max 10 minutes total for the process. And if I can't give myself 10 minutes towards something I want, then I'm not serious about changing my life. And I dropped that tape on a Friday night, went to dinner, and casting called me Monday morning.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's awesome.
It was one of the best decisions I've ever done.
And for us, I thank you for auditioning and being on the show.
Shut up, Derek. You are my role is shuttered.
My God, I love that. I mean, I love that. And then it's like, why do people want to be so awful to the people who like go through all of that and like put themselves out there? Like, I just don't get it, especially like they're making our favorite show. Like, what possesses people to be so horrible to the players? I don't get it. It's very strange to me.
People who don't have a life. I don't think anybody is being nice, or I don't think anybody is being mean and nasty. And you have a full, healthy, happy, functioning life. Like, if you were just deciding to look at someone who you don't know, who's doing something incredibly brave. I mean, even the most frustrating Survivor players are still people who did something scary and brave. Like, there's still people who said, I want to do something big for my life, and then do it. Like, it is scary to play Survivor, no matter what, who you are, where you are, how great you got it, what skills it's hard and it's scary on everyone. And so it's like, to look at somebody and just be nasty to them, it's just a reflection of them not being clean and clear in their own self. Because, like, I'm not ever looking at a random person and being like, I'm going to tweet you and say, like, I've been a Survivor fan for years. I've had plenty of Survivor players who I've been like, oh, you want my wrath? Like, I'm not going to give it to you, right? But like, the most I'm going to do is like talk about it online. I'm not going to find these people and deliberately send them nasty messages. And people do it. Like, I learned that the hard way. People will find you. And I remember I had a baby picture on Instagram. Someone found my freaking less than a toddler years old. And it was like, how dare you not do this? And I'm like,
what in the world?
it's not the like, come on, like really, and it's just like you have to just learn that people are always going to people, like, and there's always going to be jerks. There's always going to be people unhappy with themselves and see you doing something cool and exciting and want to try to bring you down a peg. And so now my philosophy is I'll listen to any criticism about my game or anything negative. As long as it doesn't toe the line. If it's racist, sexist, or homophobic, I'm not listening to it and I'm discarding it immediately. But if you have something critical to say, just be, final 3 and up. Have to play Survivor, and then I'll listen.
That's a great rule.
You need to be where I am, having done what I did and got as far as I got before you start talking nasty and I listen.
Period. I love that. Makes sense to me.
It shuts down a lot of people. A lot of people go quiet.
So all you fans, when you see Katurah at the beach drops, pre-gaming with the other contestants,
hey,
be nice.
I do not pre-game. Katurah does not pre-game. Sam!
So what?
What are you trying to do? I do not pre-game. Look, I feel one of the biggest blessings of my season is people got to see my heart. Like my heart is real. I'm never gonna not. The things that I, exposed on Survivor, those are all true. Those things can't not be true. And I have identified myself as the underdog a lot in life. So I'm always gonna side for people who are voiceless or who are not, respected or looked at or valued. Like I'm always gonna be that person. I'm always gonna be someone that likes to stand up for people who, others overlook. That's literally my whole career. And I like that Survivor shows that I care about those issues and I have a heart. And so, if somebody sees me and they like, hey, let's align, sure, that'd be great. But like, I don't, I'm not a pre-gamer. I'm not a super planning ahead. I'm just living life.
Yes.
Be happy. See how I clean it up, Sam? Because I clean your mess up, Sam. Happy and living life and like literally being so grateful that I got a chance to play on my favorite show.
Hell yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, do we want to memorialize Asia?
We do need some acknowledgement of the tragedy of losing Asia. I feel like that's now twice that I've had a third person boot. That's rocked my world like this because on my season, Subaya was the third boot.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I was like, no. Like, they don't show this part, but I literally say to Caleb when we're later, I'm like, I'm the only Black woman in the entire game. Like, what am I gonna do? It's like, no, how are all these really cool, powerful women getting taken out early? It sucks. It just sucks to see it, but it's just the way Survivor goes. That's why I always tell people it's harder than you realize. Because I think if you would have said to Asia before going, like, right, if somebody says it's you or X, won't you vote X, and she'd be like, of course, but in the moment, you never know all the other factors that are happening, how you're feeling, how you're thinking, who you think really is with you, who may not be, what information you don't have. And really just getting through the game in Survivor is hard. Like just literally surviving and being like, a tribal council happened and I got to come back to camp that night. That's an extreme privilege. And I just, my heart goes out to Asia. I feel like, just so she knows, we're swarming you with love, another icon. We love you so much. But yeah, you make sense how it happened.
Yeah. But it was a really good episode, though. I feel
Great
like
episode.
Yeah.
I like that. So who do we think's in danger next?
Oof. Well, it's like, I guess it depends on how things shake out. Like we said before, I feel like Sue and Caroline seem like that seems like a good duo right there. I could see either Kyle is just like goes out the door right after TK, or it's like maybe they take a shot at Gabe. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of things I feel like that could happen on Blue. Yellow. Well, we didn't even talk about Sam versus Annika.
We haven't talked about them yet.
Right.
The chopping versus the sawing was
I love that. It was so satisfying when she was like, well, we do it like this before. It was like instantly cut out. That's how you handle that.
When she called him Samuel, I was like, oh, these people do not like each other.
And we love it.
Yeah.
That was
a
amazing.
cute little
So I feel like
rivalry.
that's gonna like build to, especially like Sierra seems to like obviously be like really connected to Sam. I think Rachel and Annika seem to be a thing. I think Andy has like very nicely like slid into the background, which is kind of insane to think
Did
about.
so well.
Yeah, so it's
So
like
well.
I think Andy's like in a good spot there. So it's like I could see this blowing back on. I mean, especially if people are scared about Sam, I could see them wanting to get him out with that idol, or it could just be like maybe Sam is so annoyed with Annika that he gets everyone else to get on board with that and get out her. I don't know. But it's
My
like Red.
Annika is just because she's lost her vote.
Yeah,
Right.
she's
I feel
in a
like
bad
she would have
spot.
been totally fine and insulated, but her losing her vote and then already like rubbing against Sam, I feel like I'm nervous that at some point the girls are gonna have to choose.
Mhm.
And I worry that Sierra would choose Sam.
Yeah.
So that is a little scary, especially with Annika losing her vote. And like,
Mhm.
but if not for that, I feel like I feel like Rachel and Annika are two really big presences on that yellow tribe.
Mhm.
And I feel like I've been saying after my winner pick was Asia, and then after Asia left, I was like, I think it's gonna either be Annika or Rachel, like one of them, given the way they're all so insulated well, like Sam going out of his way to make sure every single girl on that tribe is with him for a portion of finding that. Like, I think Sam's really insulated, and he got Sierra super strong, really insulated. I think if they go to tribal, it's gonna be Rachel or Annika. Since Annika lost her vote, I feel like it could be her, which is a little scary.
Yeah,
it's
because
sad.
otherwise they need like Andy to flip and like vote
Yeah.
out Sam with them. But like Sam is the only person who's like been speaking to him, and so now that
Exactly.
Annika doesn't have
Yep.
her vote, it's like it's 2-2, and it's just
I
kind of
forgot
like
about that with Andy. Yep.
not
Mhm.
really gonna happen. But
Yeah,
I
it's
do,
not
but
looking
you know,
good.
at least there's like some danger for Andy for them, because he, even in these challenges, he's like, I'm gonna be so good at every single part of this, and then they kept him for challenge strength, and it's not really coming together yet.
Yeah, but
Maybe next week.
that's the thing. You just need to survive one, like, you know, I guess season in Survivor, in terms of like, we just need to survive this tribal, or we just need to survive everybody hating me right now, because Andy to me feels like in an extremely good position. Like, I don't think Andy is the target of anything anymore. And now that he's given Sierra his shot in the dark, he's made sure that they know I'm specifically with you guys. I feel like even if something happens and we're like, okay, Andy doesn't bring tribe strength anymore, like, was Andy really, you know, if I have to cheer for you to open that coconut, are you really our strong guy, right? So I don't think they ever really like viewed Andy as his huge thing anyway. So I honestly don't feel like the challenge performance is going to hurt him. I think he's done what he needs to do, which is solidify with Sam and Sierra. I'm in with you. And yeah, I don't feel like he's at the odds at all.
Yeah. Which is great for him. I'm just like really curious now what Teenie and Keyshawn do on Red.
Yeah.
That is going to be
especially with Rome having the extra vote.
Yeah.
Steal a vote.
Yeah.
Steal a vote, excuse me.
Which is, yeah.
Steve, like, I think Steven Fishback tweeted like it's very dangerous on a 5-person tribe because he's in this like locked pair.
Yeah.
So like they can just decide
the
who goes
majority.
home.
Exactly. Damn, that's true.
But again, the Genevieve Vidal, it's so hard to know like what she's thinking because
wish I knew.
we've had a total of like 2 confessionals in 3 episodes, and like her one confessional this episode is kind of making fun of Rome, like, and so I like are they as locked in a pairs? We're being told they are.
Right.
I don't know if we can necessarily trust that because we're not getting. We're literally only getting half the story.
About?
It was something about she's talking about how small the fish was. It wasn't like game related.
Okay,
but her one confessional this episode was talking about how tiny his fish were.
I'm like trying to figure out why Genevieve is not being shown to us so much, and I'm like, okay, my original theory was because she goes home next, right? So clearly that was wrong. It was Asia, and I'm like, I wonder if she's just getting less attention because her counterpart is the person getting the biggest amount of attention, right? Like, what is Genevieve realistically saying that Rome is not saying? Right? Rome is probably just saying it funnier and like, you know, causing chaos as he's saying it, right? Like Rome's like, Asia's gotta go, while like spitting on Asia and being like, hell no, I'm not telling you this stuff. I'm imagining if Genevieve is his number one, that she's saying probably the same things as him. So So I don't necessarily feel like the fact that we're not seeing a lot of Genevieve means that she's in trouble. I almost feel like it means her and Rome's relationship is even tighter. And it's just that she's outshadowed by the bigness of Rome's personality, which means no, I think you're right. If they go to tribal again, it's Teeny or Keyshawn.
Or Saul, or if they just it depends on
there.
Saul could Saul
Saul. Yeah, okay, it'll be Saul. And then if they get down to it, I still feel like they pull in Teeny before Keyshawn because Teeny's just like so lovable.
Yeah,
it does seem like Rome likes Teeny more than Keyshawn.
Oh, and he
Teeny
told Teeny about the thing before he told Keyshawn. Yeah. I think for Red, it would be Saul next, then Keyshawn if they do.
Yeah,
gotta be. I mean.
Which it's great for Teeny. Like that sucks for Keyshawn, I think, maybe more than he realizes. Where it's like, oh, like if it does get to a situation where they have to vote out 2 other people from that tribe, it's like not looking good for him specifically.
That's true.
But like we said earlier, who knows?
Yeah,
like we believe things to be true last episode.
Like there could be a swap. Anything else could happen.
Right. Who knows? So that that all makes sense to me.
And that's why you got to be that player. Like that's why I really like Teeny's game of just being the person who can just kind of be really in good with everybody in a way that's not threatening to anybody. Like I feel like they're playing that perfect line where it's just like everybody loves Teeny, but not in a way where it's like everybody loves you. This is a threat, you know. Like on our season, Caleb was the everybody loves Caleb, and then it was like, well, everybody loves you. You know what I mean? This is dangerous. And then people started going against him, you know?
Tragic.
Definitely.
And I feel that in everyday life.
Too many people love you. I like Teeny's also like willingness to. Teeny had this pregame relationship. Like they were locked in with Asia. Not that Asia knew who Teeny was, but this could have been something that was like totally secret from the other contestants and like was something totally under the radar. But when Teeny recognized that that's not the way it was going, Teeny was like, okay, like I'm gonna go with these people because they have the power.
Yeah. And that flexibility is probably why they're gonna be staying a lot longer than everybody else.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay, wait, hold on. We did yellow, we did red. Did we do blue?
We talked a little about it.
Like Gabe if they take a big swing and they
right.
Because interestingly enough, like just on an editing perspective, like we saw like Caroline and Sue celebrating after the TK like blindside, but it was very much the 2 of them, like we're and then it was like kind of those 2 together, and then Gabe being like, this is why I played my idol. It's interesting that we didn't get a scene because they certainly all talked after. This is make game a little more in Edgic territory, but it's just interesting that there's this disconnect in the duo and trio. I need to go. Someone's at her door, so keep talking about me.
Oh, terrifying. I agree. It's like
stuffed animals. That's cute. Oh, they have a little perch. That's cute. Sorry, Derek. I got distracted.
I agree.
Easily distracted. Like, oh wow, look at those.
I feel that. So it's like interesting, but it's like I don't know. So I feel like I would want to see Blue to go next just to like get a better sense of like who's really, because I feel like Sue and Caroline, maybe they feel so good with each other because they were kind of presented as being kind of on the bottom. Like there was that 4. And so they probably feel like, yes, we defied the odds. We are the underdogs. We did that. So they might like start feeling a little, what's the word? I don't know. Not like high on their supply, but just feeling like, okay, so maybe we can take a swing at Gabe.
Yeah.
And it does feel like they have a genuine social connection. Like I think that they also just simply like each other on levels that are like different, not the game, which I like in an alliance where it's like they seem to view each other similar to how they like view their family, which I think also obviously makes them like each other a lot more in the game.
I agree. It feels like they're good people. And honestly, I feel like because so when I'm thinking about Blue, I'm like Sue and Caroline feel exactly as y'all said. This is not going away. They're strong. But Sue is mad at Kyle.
Yeah.
And is not forgetting that he was the only one that wrote her name down that's still left. And so I wonder if that's going to make them be even closer to Gabe, like pull Gabe in even more. Although I would say I love that Gabe scooped up Sue and Carolyn. I thought that was brilliant. It was actually what I wanted Tiana to do.
Yeah.
Because they were at the bottom originally. And they were that kind of like, they're a softer presence, not like I'm an alpha and I got to take up space, right? So I feel like they would be fine pairing with an alpha type person and being like, you could be our head and, worst case happens, you get shot first. And I wish that Tiana would have done that so that they would have been all connected. But I feel like Gabe did that. And now they're more connected to Gabe than they are Tiana, which feels like unless Gabe messes it up, which I was worried about them showing us him going to Kyle and then Kyle going back to the girls, because I'm like, I hope they're not hinting that Gabe messes it up. If Gabe messes up the relationship between him and Carolyn and Sue, then I think Gabe's out next. Like, if he does anything where they're like, oh, you've been telling Kyle we're your goats or, whatever, anything like that. But otherwise, I feel like it would be Kyle.
Yeah. Unless, or it's like if Tiana is like, I don't know, because like you said, I feel like Tiana missed that vote and then she did get roped into the vote, but it's like she kind of missed her opportunity, like you said, to be those three, which would, because then it's like she would have been in a great position to then it's like Gabe is scarier to them because he was able to find an idol and he is like sketchier. So I think it's like it's scary for Kyle and it's scary for Tiana, I feel like at this point.
Agree. Unless Gabe does something royally outrageous and like pisses off Carolyn and Sue, I feel like Tiana and Kyle are at the most at risk. And I hope that Tiana can pull on the like, we're girls, we all voted together to get out this guy who was disrespecting me. Like, let's stick together. But I don't know if that, and then Sue's, frustration with Kyle. Like that to me is like the only way Tiana would be safe. But it's getting
and we just don't know. Like
it's a good season.
Yeah, this is really. I feel like last year is more Banu.
Slow start.
Yes,
we were still in Banu territory last year, right? Like at this moment, still currently.
I think so, right?
Yeah, I think he went home on the 4th episode.
Oh wow! Wild. Yeah, that's a long time to drag that out. That's a very long time.
I know. And well, then it ended up being good, So it's like, I'm very curious. Hopefully they keep the momentum up. I feel like this has the makings of a really good season. And I'm just like very excited to see how the end game plays out. Because I feel like
we're not even at the mid game.
I know, but I'm just like, we know so many people and like all these dynamics. I'm just like, how is this all gonna like come down to a head at the end? Like who's gonna come out on top?
I'm excited. It's gonna be good. We'll stay posted. I'll be tweeting and going live every week before the episode comes out, just talking about like what we think is gonna happen, how we're reacting. But until further notice, I'm in deep mourning.
I know.
Katurah, where can people find you to see your Instagram lives, etc.?
Yeah, I am Katurah Topps on every platform except Instagram, where I'm Haute Couture, because it was just too. I mean, I couldn't pass it. I couldn't give it up. Literally, when my season was about to air, and we're like going through all of our social medias, like I was advised you should change your Instagram to Katurah Topps since it's Katurah Topps on every other platform. And I'm like, but how could I give up Haute Couture?
Literally, it's so good.
It's so good. It hits me on multiple levels all the time, and I couldn't give it up. So Haute Couture on Instagram, and then Katurah Topps on everything else.
Period. I love that. Tops for tops forever.
I know. My slogan during my season was straight to the tops.
Yes. I love that. Oh my gosh, Christina's back. When your camera moved, I was like, what is happening? I was worried you were gonna have like
who's in there.
It was like a snuff film. Yeah, I was like, what is happening?
No, the issue is we had like a problem last week where our bath like was like leaking into the downstairs apartment, and then they came and fixed it, and they were like all good, and we took another bath. We used it, and it was fine.
We took another bath.
We collectively, like, no, between the two of us, one of us took another bath the other day, and it was fine. And then Nicole is using it right now, and then our neighbor just came. Yeah. Oh my god, hold on. The maintenance guy wants me to call
Oh
him.
my God,
I
well,
totally
Okay,
need to
that's
bounce.
totally fine.
Should we let you go? I mean,
Yeah, you
when the
take care of
camera
that,
moved,
Christine.
I was like, who was at the door? Like, what
Yeah.
happened?
I
Like,
was like, what's
Well,
about to go down?
right.
Okay. Well,
Christine
do you
is
want to
the
plug or
X-Teen Files on all of
Yes.
social media, and you can find her writing at Inside Survivor.
with you worthy?
With
Yes.
Gia Worthy
Yeah.
every week. I think that's
Yes.
what we say.
Okay. Yes. You head
Cool.
out, Christine.
Yeah,
I'm-
we
I'll
love
say-
you and we
so
hope your stuff
I'll
is
just turn
okay.
my camera and my mic off so my thing can upload, but
Yes,
Okay,
love.
yes.
Okay.
so but I won't be here. Okay,
Good
bye.
luck with that.
Bye, good luck.
That's so awful.
Aw.
Um,
Yeah,
Not while you're taking a bath. Like,
yeah,
hello.
that's terrible.
That's too much. Well, you can follow me at Reindeerix, REIN deer, like reindeer EKS on Twitter. Follow us at Bitter Pod on Twitter and Instagram. If you're in Chicago, come to Pizza Lobo Andersonville. Watch the episodes with me and a drag queen of the week. Usually I will be hosting with my good friend Shut Up, but she is taking improv classes during this season. So it's going to be a rotating panel of queens. This week I will be with the amazing Dairy Queen. With a really, I think, viral moment of one of her performances as Sadness from Inside Out, where she gunned down Joy from Inside Out as part of her little bit. I don't know. So that's Dairy Queen.
Drag
We'll be
is
there.
beautiful.
Yes.
Did Joy survive?
She came back. Don't worry. She got to dance.
Phew, okay. That's all I needed to know. I'm like, because sometimes Sadness does just gun down Joy. So it's very real. It sounds really appropriate. I'm like, well, as long as Joy got to come back out on the other side.
Yeah, don't worry. All the emotions got to come back and do
Okay,
a
good.
dance
Eventually.
number in the club. I forget what I think it was Emotions by Mariah Carey was the ending number, if I remember correctly.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, so Dairy Queen and me will be at Pizza Lobo Andersonville talking about Survivor during the commercial breaks. You can come spin our little wheel, win a buff, all that good stuff.
Cute.
Yeah.
You can follow me on Sam Stanish and support us on Patreon for 2 extra episodes a month.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the winner's edit. Katurah, you were saying earlier that you kind of had feelings that someone was maybe going to win, and so who are you kind of thinking about in that way?
Okay, I could be biased, but it feels like there's a theme of just like really strong women. So I noticed it on the Gotta Tribe where I was like, Sierra, Rachel, and Annika all seem really strong, really smart, really like together. And when I say that, I mean like strategically good, but also socially good. And then also having people around you who you actually trust. And like those 3 things to me is like what makes a winner. And obviously I think about my season, I think about Dee. She had strategy and she had people around her who were like, I'm locked in with you. And I don't feel like we always see that in a way that's like, these people aren't going anywhere. And so when I think about the 3 women on the Gotta Tribe, and then I think about the Sue and the Carolyn of it all, and I'm like, I just feel like it's going to be a woman. There's so many really strong women, and they're highlighting their strength. Because a lot of times, I feel like Survivor doesn't always show like how strong a woman is, right? Unless it's like the moment where she's about to get voted out, right? So I'm strong and I'm frustrated with you, and now I'm arguing, and then like, you know, I'm about to go home. Like this is the day you see me blow up, or you see me be like, no, I'm not gonna vote with this guy, and then something happens to them. And I just don't feel like we're seeing that with these women. Like, right? Is it 3 men in a row?
Surprise.
Oh my gosh.
Everything okay?
Yes, our French handyman Michel is coming tomorrow. So-
Come on, Michelle.
Wonderful.
Merci, Michel.
Yes. Okay. But I agree with you,
Okay.
Katurah. I feel really great about the women. And I agree. It's like they're all presented as like having strategic agency, which I think is what you're referring to, where it's like a lot of the time, at least there was definitely an era of Survivor where it was like sort of normalized, where it's like there was a man who like called the shots, and then there were the women who were working with him, was like how Survivor presented stuff. And so I agree. I think this season's doing a really great job of displaying the women's strategy and their social power, like you were saying. And that makes me excited I mean, Rachel was my preseason winner pick. I don't think she has an amazing edit so far, but I'm more scared for Annika, like we're saying, just from like a game standpoint. I feel better about Rachel. I just wish don't know. I feel like she's gone a little quiet. She had a great first episode, I felt like, and then it's just like it's kind of petered out for me. I feel like Sierra honestly is like rising for me in that regard.
Yeah.
Like
I almost feel like it's got to be one of the women on that tribe. Like specifically, Gata tribe is kind of stacked with people who have great relationship and strategic prowess. And I agree with you. I was like, okay, my winner picks have been after Asia have been either Annika or Rachel. And then when everything happened last week, I was like, okay, so I think it's going to be Rachel as my winner pick. But I could also see Sierra being like a strong contender in there as well. Like it's just who's going to be the out person on that tribe? Like, you know what I mean? Like they have it all. And honestly, I don't really think the edit wants to give us all the attention on our winner but at this early anyway, right? Like I remember multiple Edgic, predictions. Couldn't get away from them during my season. And for a while, Dee wasn't even on them. Like her name wasn't even mentioned. And so I do feel like Survivor likes to play with us sometimes and go back and forth. It totally could be somebody that pops out of nowhere, which this is another reason I was worried about Genevieve. I was like, is this on purpose, right? Like all of a sudden in the middle of the season, we get bam, flooded with a bunch of Genevieve and then it's Genevieve is the winner, right? You never know. So
that's true.
Stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened. We've had winners with terrible edits before. We've had winners who weren't involved at all. And like, I remember in our promo for my season, I wasn't even in it. Like not one, there's like half of a 1 second where I'm like moving a sandbag and it's so fast you can't even see me. Literally Sabaya's family would be like, is that Sabaya?
Oh,
and I'd be like, no, that's me. Yay. The only reason we knew is because I was a little bit of blue on. So, and then people were like, Katurah must not go far in the game. Like, she's not in the promo at all. Like, we didn't see her. You know what I mean? So, I feel like Survivor likes to mess with us a little bit. Like, they know we're looking for the winner's edit.
For sure.
Definitely.
And it's always going to be, like, we're always going to get lots of roams. Like, a lot of, like, TK, a lot of someone like Sam is always going to get a lot of screen time, which I think that's interesting that like, Sam's edit, I thought started out really well. But I feel like this episode, I was like, maybe this is like a distraction, but I was like, oh shit, maybe he's not like gonna do that well, because like the whole Annika of it all is like polar opposite to what he presented as what his strategy was gonna be, which was like, I'm gonna be the glue guy, I'm gonna be in with everyone, and I'm just gonna like sit there and not cause waves. And now he's like hacking at a rope in front of Annika
vigorously.
It's just like I feel like his chances are more dicey, unless like I don't know, like we've talked about before, it's like they're not afraid to show the winners being a little spicier or like not as like polished, like they're more willing to be like warts and all with the winners edits. So don't want to write him off, but I was like, that's not good.
I haven't written Sam off, but I also wonder, like, with him being the only guy in the group full of all those women pre-merge, like how that's gonna fare for him. I know he's done his due diligence, but I don't know. They seem pretty close, the girls.
That's what I was thinking.
I do feel like someone else was talking about this before, but I do think that like cross-gender alliances are like a theme in this season. I feel like more often than usual, people are talking about like how they relate to the people of like men versus women or whatever. Like I think that like Gabe's whole thing is built around his view of Caroline and Sue, but like Sue is like also talking about how like she's used to dealing with all sorts of men and like like looking down on her or whatever. And then it's like there was the whole conversation around Sam and Sierra's relationship and like if they're dating or whatever. I feel like gender politics is like a conversation topic in this season, more so than usual.
That's a great point.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so I like that. I mean, speaking of Sue, I feel like her edit's been pretty great. Like.
This was interesting, this episode though, of her, because we saw that like Kyle was like genuine in like wanting to work with her, and then for her to like I didn't love this for her in terms of like how it was presented, of like we heard a lot from Kyle about his read on the game and like wanting to work with Sue and Caroline and like the way Gabe views them, and that's been reinforced by like the way we've seen Gabe talk about them. And so obviously this was as we mentioned, this was the thing that happened. They made the choice to include it. Like they can't like, they can edit out moments, but if they choose to include them, they can the act of including something does not mean it's bad for her. But
Right.
we didn't care.
Yeah.
Like all our only like. I feel like my only understanding of her in that conversation was just she didn't want to have a game conversation on an off day, which work. But like that's also like being framed as like her missing an opportunity
Of
potentially.
course.
So
Yeah.
it's not like I'm not like Sue's dead in the water. Like as I've definitely been like over the past couple seasons, I'm very open minded in terms of like how things can be spun on in terms of Edgic, but I didn't love that because I would have loved if she got like a confessional right after, being like getting a little more like why she doesn't want to work with Kyle, but maybe she just didn't say that, so they couldn't include it. But
that's a good point. I'm not getting winner from Sue.
I'm getting main character, but I'm not. I don't think it's necessarily.
Yeah, I'm
winner.
getting go far and be inspirational. Well, like what? That's not funny.
Yeah.
No, I don't know why that makes me
It's funny
giggle.
to say.
It's
It's funny to say.
I don't know.
I know that so often the older woman archetype gets labeled as kind of just go along to get along. And I feel like they're deliberately saying, look, Sue's not that. Sue is working with all these men and owns her own airline or, whatever the thing is. It's like a lot of energy has been put on making sure we know Sue's a badass and Sue is a badass. And so it's like, oh, that's cool. I feel like that's the inspiration piece.
Yeah.
But they're not giving her full strategy credit on a lot of areas. I feel like her biggest bump for me strategically from the edit was working with Gabe and convincing Tiana to write TK.
Right.
And having him go out rather than be like, okay, we have this guy in and who, he sucks, but we just have him in for that. But I haven't really felt like they're giving Sue winner. Like I don't necessarily have my eye on her for that.
That's fair.
Not in a negative way though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I feel like speaking of that, like I feel like Tiana also, I feel like, I don't know. I was really excited like by her episode or her edit last episode because she was presented as like, I'm in the middle and I'm making this choice and like all this stuff. And then it's nothing this episode, which is like, that sucks. Like that's.
They dropped. Yeah, that's true. There was like pretty much no Tiana content this episode.
She was sitting in the water at one point. That's all I remember. Just like a shot of her in the water.
Oh no, I hope that doesn't mean that she's soon to go.
I know, it scares me. I didn't like that because she seemed like, I don't know, like she was like the linchpin. Like she was like, I'm the center of this tribe. I get to make a choice here. And now it's just like, and she's gone. Okay.
And she is like best case scenario, she's fourth in the Gabe to Carolyn. Like that's her best case scenario right now. So
yeah,
that is a little risky. Damn
we'll
it.
Pray for her.
If we lose Asia and then Tiana, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. We had Tiana. We had Tiana on at Pondy with us.
She was one of the
she was the
alternates. Yeah.
And
she's one of those people you just like. She gives off good energy. She's a good, level-headed, enjoyable player, and I'm like, damn. I hope that doesn't cost her.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, you made a great point of that. I think when you're doing the cast assessment of like. The alternates should be scary to people because that means there's someone who can like slot in anywhere. Like as a player, that should be kind of scary to you if you have that information.
I do think that's one of my best contributions to Survivor discussion. I feel like that was like, I'm like a big
honestly,
brain
it's big brain because that means production sees this person as someone who could literally go anywhere and like have some kind of journey.
And I feel like it has been proven out through the history. Like
I mean, Tina
people
Wesson.
who have been alternates go far more often than not. But anyway, we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe
when I learned the alternate for our season, like I literally came to Pondy and they were like, guess who was the alternate? I went through every single other person except Austin. Like literally my first thought was, well, it can't be Austin. He's too beautiful. And they were like, it was Austin. I'm like, no. And then that's the person who's our runner up, like it really is a testament to like, as you're saying, Dara, like the person's ability to fit in, to get slotted in at the last minute and go that far. It's like, wow, this is some force to be reckoned with. So I don't know, but
big
who
brain.
knows how that's going to come out in Tiana. Oh.
I still, to pivot, I still have high hopes for Sam. I feel like this episode was still
Mhm.
good for him, like being a glue guy. He's like bringing Andy in and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think there's still stuff going on for him. And he's still probably who I would say is my winner pick.
That's fair. Yeah, I think just like we're saying, or like Yellow just like has the vibes.
The
Something
Yellow
is going on
Tribe,
there.
yeah, exactly. Because there isn't that division. I mean, I know that Sam is annoyed with Annika, but one person's gonna go,
Right.
and everybody else is okay. Like it feels like one person could leave, and the rest would still be strong as a unit.
Right, especially because they only have how many more votes before we get to Mergatory? Like 2?
3, 4, 5.
4.
Wait.
Well, we're at.
It's 3. 3.
I think 3 sounds right.
Okay, it's 6. Okay.
That's only like 3 more immunity, like tribal immunities that they have to get through. And like you said, like if they have to clip one person, that's only 2 more that they have to worry about.
Mhm.
And then that could be scary if that does happen. But I just don't see that because they seem like a solid, like
They
physical
seem strong.
group.
Yeah.
Yeah. So eyes are on Yellow. I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick by Rachel until the wheels fall off. That was my preseason pick, and I'm gonna do that.
The same. That's cool.
Yes, she just, something about her. I think her glasses really sold me. I don't know what it is.
I like when she was aware enough to like coddle Andy as he needed it,
Mhm.
but also recognize the danger and be like frustrated by like Andy latching onto her at those moments. I really like that. I thought that was very insightful, and it's the kind of thing that you could say and experience and do in Survivor and it not make the episode. And so the fact that they put a lot of attention on that, I was like, oh, okay. I know I want to, make a little mental note that they're flagging this. At the time, I thought it was just flagging it to let us know that Andy's going to have some sort of like, he went through this tumultuous thing and that, all of that. But yeah, anyway, I'm rambling.
And the
This
rice.
is so funny. I would rather have her narrate a scene than like most other people.
The rice! I forgot about the rice!
Like it's like they showed us that for a reason. They're like they want you to see Rachel as like someone who is thinking about the game on a different level.
True, because and that's another moment that you could have in Survivor and they don't show. Like it's very common that we'd be like, Jeff, can we take this? Or we take something and they're like, no, put it back. And it's very like just a casual thing in the way, you can't do that. And then you walk back to camp and it's like one moment of a million that nobody thinks about. But them zoning in on it, damn.
D's toe, anyone? D's big toe?
It's giving big toe. Wow. And she didn't get any pushback from it either. Like it wasn't like you were trying to steal rice. How dare you? Or it was like, I'm looking out for my people. I'm making sure I was going to take those last few kernels and I was going to split it between the whole tribe. It was like, okay.
Community.
Okay, positive. Yeah.
Community.
Powerful. So yeah, I'm even though I'm like scared for Rachel because of the like, I guess strategic, like if she's like locked in with Annika and Annika could potentially be going, like that's scary for her on a game level, but I don't know. I'm just rooting for her and I feel good about her still.
Yeah. And she's still in a good place with Sam no matter what.
Right. So I'm looking out for her.
Yeah. Oh, and if you want to target the Sam Sierra thing, Sierra's still more likely to go before Rachel. Annika's more likely to go before Rachel. Sam's more likely to go before Rachel. Ah! Okay. Whoa. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm doubling down on Rachel.
You convinced yourself.
Yeah. I was like, well, originally it was just like Annika, Rachel, Annika, either one. But now I think you're right. That's true. All the dynamics point to her being the least likely person that Yellow votes out.
Mm-hmm. Which is great for her and great for us as Rachel fans.
Yeah.
What are we gonna call ourselves? Rachel.
You'll have to come up with it. Let us know.
You'll have to think of something because only thing that came to my mind is I've been watching a lot of The Circle, and there was a girl named Rachel on there, and they like nicknamed her Rachana or something. And I was like, I don't know if I love that. I don't want to be Rachana list. We'll figure it out.
Would you ever do The Circle, Katurah?
Right now, the only thing I'm focused on is Survivor.
Period.
And listen, bitter jurors, y'all gonna have to stop putting me in situations where I need to have diplomatic answers.
I just want to know.
We have enough of that. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
But I was gonna say I have to run.
Okay, yes.
We have talked far enough.
Yes,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you so much for
I
being here,
love you guys.
Katurah.
I could talk forever to you, but I must leave.
Yeah.
I'm getting too many messages of like, where are you? We just
Okay. Well,
I'm
we
supposed
love
to be
you.
working today.
Love
Today is my
you.
work day.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I love you all so much. This was so cool. Like,
Amazing.
I loved it. Is there anything that you need me to say or talk about before we go, like as you wrap up or close it out?
No.
No, I think we can just wrap up.
We can end. This was lovely.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're ready to go too. Okay.
Yeah.